everyone, it's Catherine from Work Apart. Today I wanted to show you how to make homemade biscuits from scratch that are really quick and easy and can go with any meal. These biscuits are really quick and easy. We only need a few ingredients. We need butter, a cheese grater or a chopper. We're gonna need baking powder. I use raw milk that we get from a local creamery, salt, and sugar. We're gonna need a tablespoon and a teaspoon, and I like to use a scale. If you're really good at scooping, you can do that as well. So we're gonna start with these 2 sticks of butter. You want your butter to stay cold as much as possible, and I'm gonna actually show you a trick that I picked up on doing. So I find that grating my butter is a lot easier than chopping it. You can leave chunks in it. So I just tend to do this really fast before Chris is coming home, and I can put these biscuits with just about any meal. You can also double them up, that way you can have egg biscuit sandwiches in the morning. So after you cheese grate your butter, you want to take your cheese and actually put it in the freezer while we work on our dry ingredients. Okay, so next we're going to weigh our flour. I forgot to mention in the beginning of this is a double recipe. So we're gonna weigh it in grams, and for the double recipe, that's gonna be 500 grams. I use King Arthur flour. This is their King Arthur all-purpose flour. And it doesn't have to be super exact on its weight. The more accurate it is, the more consistent your biscuits are gonna come out. Okay, so I'm gonna clear the scale. The next thing we're gonna do is add in 2 tablespoons of baking powder. So after you've put your flour in and your 2 tablespoons of baking powder, you're going to want to put in 2 tablespoons of sugar. Then you're going to want to put in 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons of salt. And I did use salted butter prior. Right now our butter's still in the freezer, so we're gonna give that another minute. Then we're going to break our butter into it and then add our milk. Okay, so the butter is nice and cold because we had it in our freezer while we were mixing our flour products. Next, I'm going to actually take the butter and we're just gonna lightly break it up and mix it into our flour. This part we are going to want to do a little bit quicker, because we don't want our butter to start to melt on us. So we're gonna mix this up. All our ingredients are nice and blended. We're gonna put it back on our scale. And though I wish I was a nice and clean baker, I tend to be a little bit more on the messy side and just clean it up afterwards. You're gonna wanna adjust your scale to milliliters right now. And so now we're gonna take our milk and we're going to put in 177 milliliters for a single batch and double that. I would love to say that I knew what that was off the top of my head, but honestly, I've always just cleared it out after putting 177 in. But the other thing about biscuits is you're going to want them to stay flaky. So we don't always use the other 177 milliliters of milk. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to more clump it together versus mixing it together. You don't want it to get into like a smooth paste. You want to keep it kind of just clinging to each other. Okay, let's put this over. And then I clear out my scale again. then I only put about another 150 in. I think this will be enough, but we'll see. So you're gonna wanna have a lightly floured surface. This is just gonna help keep the dough from sticking to things. I also flour my hands. And throughout this, I don't measure this flour out, but you are going to continually add flour to the biscuits. Now, I'm sure some of you have amazing biscuit recipes, and I'm sure some of you are probably cringing at how I'm making my biscuits. But like I said, this is just a recipe that works really well for our family, and it's something quick I can do when I already have to homeschool or take care of the kids, do my chores for the day, and anything else that might be on the agenda. So what we're doing right now is we're flattening it out. You don't want to use a roller because, again, we want these to be more rustic, I guess is a good word. You want it to be flaky. You're more getting all the ingredients to cling together and the biscuits to cling together. So what we're doing is we're flattening it out, and then you're gonna turn and fold, and then we're flattening it out again. I don't know if you can see here, but you're just keeping them together. You're more just pressing it in. And as it starts to get a little bit more sticky, you can go ahead and add a little bit more flour. And then I'm just pressing it in on itself. Okay, so I've noticed that for good biscuits, it's about 5 folds minimum. But honestly, I just keep folding it in on itself. But that's probably because I'm doing double, triple, quadruple batches at times. So I just look for more of like a together consistency. When we fold these biscuits in, that's what's gonna help give it that flaky texture, that layered texture. So that's pretty much what you're building on it right now. Okay, so this is my final one. I'm gonna start pressing it in harder, and we're gonna wanna go for, I guess, about a 1/2 inch texture or a 1/4 inch texture of thickness. This is definitely a preference thing. My family tends to enjoy a little bit bigger biscuits. I will show you when I'm done. So you can get a biscuit cutter, and I know that people who really enjoy making biscuits, they definitely have their preferences on not turning and sealing in the biscuit, because you want the biscuit to be able to rise because they cling to each other in the oven and kind of fold up. But I've always just used this and they turn out just fine. And again, we're kind of just looking for that quick biscuit that we can make consistently for our family and get us out of the grocery store and away from store-bought biscuits. Okay, so we're gonna kind of fold it out. And so, I know I gave you kind of a measurement earlier. Honestly, I always just look for about half the height of my pinky, the first part of my pinky. It's not super technical. So we're gonna make sure that our cast iron is nice and buttered. You can also put these on flat pans. I tend to go back and forth, honestly, between the two. I like the cast iron. It gives it a crispier bottom, but my husband tends to prefer the flat baking pan with just a silicone parchment paper. So again, I just kind of base it off of the height of half of the first part of my pinky. So I know some of my biscuit friends are cringing right now watching me use this and twist. A big thing for biscuits is don't twist. But again, I still keep the edges. It's very similar to how a biscuit cutter would cut it, and I've not had any issues with my biscuits rising, being flaky, or losing any taste. So when we place our biscuits, we want to make sure that we're putting them on top of each other. This isn't one of those things where I know the ones in the store, they say to place them away from each other. We want our biscuits on top of each other because they're going to climb as they bake. Any of the dough that starts to rise up, you're just going to go ahead and lightly flatten it out, just keeping that consistency for our biscuits. Right in there. All right, so then I just tend to repeat what I had did originally. Again, I don't want to stress anybody with how I happen to do the biscuits. This is just what works for us. So I push the dough back together, and then I continue that folding motion, catching any of that moisture I might feel like I need to. Push it together, flatten it out. Push it together, flatten it out. I'm not sure if any of you have cats, but if you tend to see them on the bed, it is an accurate description when you see them start to make biscuits. All right. This is always the exciting part, because if we start to run out of space, we start to run out of dough, and I'll show you here at the end, but what usually ends up happening is a little special biscuit that my kids get to eat. It looks more like a, I guess like a caterpillar. Probably get one more and then a little caterpillar biscuit. Shove them together, they'll be all right. All right, and then this would be our little special biscuit. You can kind of roll them and fold them however you want. It's just we don't want to waste any of our products that we have used. So in this case, I probably would just break this one up and make little mini biscuits, fold them up. Oh, something else I do is I'll go around the edge. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I go around the edge, just giving it kind of that rough around the edge so it can breathe and grow. Okay, so now that our biscuits are done and our oven is preheated, I'm going to go ahead and just pop this right in the oven. All right, we're gonna try to bake these biscuits for, the recipe usually ends up being around 20 minutes, but I start checking my biscuits anywhere from 15 because my husband prefers to have them on the lighter side. So I set a timer. Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, starting now.
The biscuits I almost guarantee you will not be done at 15 minutes.
Open.
But this oven is new to us, and this oven also has an issue with cooking higher on one end than it does the other. So I have to rotate our biscuits, and I just do that as I do all my cleanup, usually finishing up dinner, tidying the kids up all before Chris comes home. Okay, so our timer just went off, so we're gonna go ahead and check our biscuits. Okay, so our biscuits are not quite ready, but as you can see, I have to watch our oven because this side is cooking faster than that side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it. These ones would almost be ready, but they're still gonna be a little bit soft in the middle. So we're gonna go ahead and push her back in, and we're gonna set a timer for another 3 minutes. So right now our biscuits are finishing up cooking, and I just kind of wanted to touch over how I work on my time management. So normally I would have already had made dinner before I put the biscuits in to cook. What I do is I make my dinner. I, in between, have a baby, and the other kids are usually needing my attention. Between that, I then make our dough, let everything chill, come together, make my biscuits, and then I put them in the fridge until my dinner is done cooking. Then while my dinner is resting on the stove, I go ahead and pop my biscuits in. That way it really helps me to spread out all the different tasks that I'm trying to do, and it all is coming together in the same time it would have just taken me to make dinner. Okay, so again, these are just little things that help incorporate my time being well managed. So I had recently finished up all the butter in our butter container, and so I had washed it, and then I finished up our stick butter. So I'm actually just gonna take this. This is our raw butter. I know everybody has their own opinions about raw butter. We tend to believe that it's a healthier option for our family. So I just take my raw butter and I put it in the container. So that'll be soft for different things that I need to use it for, like our biscuits that are about to come out of the oven. Okay, so our biscuits are actually ready for us to pull them out of the oven. So we just take this out. This is our biscuits. This is our final result. I hope this video blesses you. I hope you enjoy these biscuits, and I hope that it's just one more thing that makes your life a little bit easier.